Wouldn't it be great if when we met a new person, we didn't see their disability, but instead we took off those first three letters and all we saw was ability? Hey, everybody, I'm Jim Littlefield Delmiris. Welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast, where we're having a conversation about the world of people with, let's say, differing abilities. And that means sometimes we're going to be talking to adults who grew up as that person. Sometimes we're going to be talking to parents who are raising kids with disabilities. And other times we're going to be talking to a lot of folks who support these communities. It could be folks in education, maybe people in healthcare, or people in nonprofits. I know you've got busy lives. So, first of all, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to us today, spending some time. My guest today, Michael Pereira. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. We're going to talk about your journey in a minute, but my listeners know we like to get to know you a little bit. We're all just people, and we're going to do the Fast Four. Now, the Fast Four are some personal questions brought to us by my good friends at Reliable Tech Help. So, for your tech needs, 502 7399. Michael, we'll start with the easy one. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food, I would say pizza. Love,
Pizza. You've got some good company out there with pizza. You can't go wrong. All
love
right,
it.
number two. If we got a hold of your playlist, what kind of music would you have on it?
I would say classical music. It helps me just relax. Even I put it to go to sleep sometimes. So for me, classical right now is the thing.
I love it. Classical music. Okay. What question number three? You get your choice. It could be a TV show you're enjoying, a book you're reading, or a movie you've seen recently.
Actually, what I'm doing a lot is documentaries. For example, a documentary talking about how a cruise was manufactured or a car. So documentaries for me is the thing.
Okay, very good. Learn a lot through those, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then last but not least, what about a destination location? If we could just say, hey, you're going to put everything away and go off to somewhere in the world next week, where would you go?
Australia.
Australia. Okay. Why does that hold a place near and dear to your heart?
Since I was a kid, I was always watching stuff about kangaroos and everything there. So it's been something on my bucket list, and that I've always, seen Australia as something somewhere I want to go at one point and take the kids.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, everybody who comes on this podcast is connected to this world of people with disabilities or kids with differing abilities. And always like to know a little bit of your story, your backstory. How did you tell us, introduce yourself, maybe a little bit of your background, and how did you get into this world?
Of course, of course. So, my son Christian Omar, he was diagnosed almost 4 years ago. He's going to be 7 this week. So happy for that. Excited for the birthday we're coordinating. But long story short, I came from corporate America. I traveled a lot. Was never home. But our expectation was to build the American dream, what we call the American dream, upon that lifestyle. So, my wife and I, we just okay. Let's do some things slowly, but let's do it. So we got married. We got a house. Obviously pregnant with our firstborn, which is Christian. But around 1 year old, we started to notice several symptoms that we knew that needed to be addressed. And even though we were first-time parents, we knew that there was something there that again was not we weren't accustomed to. However, around that time, by being new parents, obviously we seek information from the people closest to us, and sometimes they would say, "Hey, don't worry, you were the same, so don't do anything," or
Mhm.
accompany that with a little bit of denial. That obviously that hits ego because then you start, okay, now, okay, if he has something, or because you're new parents, I wanted him to play baseball, or wanted him, those dreams that you want to live
Yeah.
through those kids. So we went through that phase, and COVID came by. I was able to stay here, be able not to travel. So a lot of the symptoms we noticed that reduced. We don't know why. Maybe because all the attention was towards him, or
Mhm.
maybe because I'm a little bit more stricter than my wife. So maybe he followed instructions a little bit more. But when COVID released, that I started traveling again, a lot of symptoms. return back full force. I would, and symptoms like hitting his head against the wall, tiptoeing, aligning stuff. He was nonverbal at one point, so he started talking a couple words that also, regressed. And we knew we needed to do something, so we got him diagnosed. Obviously, that diagnosis also takes a toll on the parent as well. But
Mhm.
around that time, long story short, I also, from a personal standpoint, started to look for other employers because I said, okay, I won't want to travel that much.
Yeah,
Want to see if I can do the same, travel less, but with and not only that, also looking for a financial planner, advisor, because your mind starts going to a dark place and you start thinking about worst case scenarios. Hey, if I pass away, if my
yeah,
parent passes away with me, and you start doing all these scenarios that you start asking very hard questions. And I could find a couple employers. My head was in the right place. I started looking for my own financial advisor. Everybody just wanted to sell me something or recruit me.
yeah,
Difficult time period, and I just decided to part ways from the corporate world for some time and be able to create a platform to be able to help families like mine, I would say, through a blog and provide services, the services I was trying to seek, which is insurance planning, which
yeah,
I would say talks a little bit more in detail of that conversation around, hey, around estate planning and financial services, because I truly believe that they go in hand to hand. When you talk about life insurance, if you talk about something that should go in hand to hand with a special needs trust, a guardianship, it's not
right.
one size fits all. It's not just a professional that should have an A team like I talk about. But basically that's how everything started until we got here.
I love that. I want to come back to your blog in a minute, but let's go back to that diagnosis piece you mentioned just briefly. But I really want to delve into that, especially from a dad's perspective, because a lot of times in this advocacy world, you get a lot of moms' perspectives, which of course are wonderful. We don't always hear from the dad. So for you, talk to us a little bit more. Let's peel back the layers of the onion a little bit on this diagnosis. When your world was kind of turned upside down, what was that like for you? How did you move through that phase? And coming out of it, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think it was a time period that I questioned myself a lot. And that denial period, I think, also put my ego against the wall,
Mm,
put my beliefs against the wall as well. Coming from a traditional background, then obviously everybody's in the same house, grandparents, parent, it's a very family oriented environment, but at the same time, there's a lot of traditions, cultural things that that obviously now it's different because you need to be adaptable, you need to be flexible, you need to be patient. Um, there's meltdowns. There's a lot of stuff that you cannot just come in and like old school in Puerto Rico with a sandal and just hit everybody that that you cannot do that. And it's a different mindset that you need to some way somehow acquire. And that's the phase we went through. It took us some time. This is not something that from one day to another you're going to adjust. But
mm,
for us, it was more on having that openness of understanding, hey, if we really want this to work as a marriage, because there's a lot of divorce rates, there's a huge divorce rate. But if we want this to work as a marriage, we need to be aligned. We need to be open to understand that each kid is evolves as its own pace and be as supportive as possible, and it really took a toll, but also we believe at one point, and we still do, that we are living the American dream now, right?
mm,
It wasn't what we thought at the beginning when we got married, we got a house. I thought I was going to be a corporate leader, getting all these stocks. For me now, I am living we are living the American dream, because it's a true blessing to be able to have a family that everything is about being supportive, support each other, and understand that each day it's like we start thinking about, hey, don't our motto now is we write everything in pencil, not in pen. So
Mm, I love
every
that.
every day is a new page, and if we need to go back and then erase, and that's what we're doing, and that's the type of mindset we acquire to be able to just go with the flow and just do our best.
I love that. Everything is written in pencil, not in pen. You seem like a person who's big on vision and planning for the future. How did you have to learn that everything can't be planned out?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everything cannot be planned out, but you can adjust. I
Yeah,
think that's what I've been able to see. Not everything is going to go as you plan, but you can adjust and you cannot go against the world, right? And
right.
that's what I think we just settle for that and see, okay, so we plan about this, and this. It's not going to happen. And the thing is, we still don't know if it's going to happen because with Christian's diagnosis, autism, even though he's mild, he's high functioning, he doesn't focus that much. We still don't know if by the time he's an adult, he will be able to make a decision. We still don't know, and that's fine. It's
Right.
fine not knowing what's not going to happen, right? It's fine. And
Yeah.
until you understand that, now that we're thinking, okay, we don't know, but the only thing we can do is try our best and just be attentive, understand also, for example, something that we've been trying to do the last years is seeing how what he's trying to say with his behavior.
Mm,
Sometimes he may not talk about it because right now, if you ask him, "Hey Christian, how are you?" He's going to say Kung Fu Panda. He's talking, but not necessarily he's going to answer the question. But
yeah.
but he may talk to us through his behaviors, and so that's what I think the adjusting is understanding, okay, maybe he doesn't talk or maybe he doesn't have a conversation with me, but he's saying something regardless. And that's what we're working on the daily basis.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to parents who are in that early stage of diagnosis and they find themselves on a daily basis, even though their child might be 3, their thoughts go to what about when they're 20, or what about when they're 18, or what about when they're 30, and trying to, almost down a rabbit hole of perpetual worry, which is really understandable. Was that ever a part of your journey? And coming through that, what advice do you give for parents on how you cope with all those feelings?
Yeah. You ask good questions, man. It's good. Good. Um, if there's a parent starting out, just trying to create a support group of like-minded parents. That's something that I would say we went through because you may have family that have the best intention but never have been through this experience, right? And that's something that I want to highlight because if in the early years that we saw several symptoms, even family would say, "Hey, don't worry, you were the same. Don't just give it time. That with time everything heals." And you're like, okay, but he's hitting his head against the wall, you
Right,
know. But then at the same time, if you're in denial, plus that advice can procrastinate any early intervention.
right.
So, I would suggest for those who are know that there's something there, follow your gut feeling. I would say
Mm,
just to get clarity of if you're concerned of a behavior, if you're concerned because of something, start having those conversations with professional. If you already have a diagnosis and you are early around that period, try to look for a support group. Have try to also create like this A team. Like for example, if you have, and let's say if it's behavioral, or you have different type of therapies, try to see how you can communicate with everybody and not be disconnected because that's something that even I see from a financial point of view that
mhm.
sometimes the mother carries one load of the responsibility, the father, and sometimes they don't even talk about to be aligned. So try to be as aligned as possible. It's just going to benefit everybody.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
yeah, now if you're thinking 20 years down the road, I don't even know what's going to happen from here to 2 years, but what I can say is that you're not alone,
Yeah.
that everybody feels that way. And if you do feel anxious, you do feel that you have uncertainty, you're in the right place. you're having the right the things happening to you because you're not alone. And try to, again, the same time you're creating that parent group, have conversations around the future. Like from a financial point of view, I always recommend have a conversation with somebody like me, or if you don't want to talk to me, talk to anybody else, but talk to and see what other families are doing,
Yeah.
right? Get what's the best practice around this area? What's how this family is doing here? Or because again, you get so much ideas when you start talking and having those conversations with professionals, not necessarily to buy something or just, but have a conversation. Don't close out the doors because there's a lot of things, a lot of ideas you can get from having just one conversation with somebody that's day in, day out talking to families, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned strong family tradition and culture and things like that. And you mentioned denial. For a lot of families, I'll ask if this was part of your journey. There's your own feelings, but then there's learning how to train and adjust the feelings of the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the extended family that, like you said, haven't walked in your shoes, but all have their opinions on discipline and how you should raise your kids based on their own personal experience. Was there an adjustment period getting the rest of the family to understand what was going on and to
Yeah.
be aligned with the two of you? What was that part of the journey like for your family?
So there's going to be family, even friends, family, everybody who's within your environment. It's- Some way, somehow, I think that every family who has a special needs loved one, your circle becomes smaller.
Mhm.
Even even with family, friends, it becomes smaller. But those who remain within that small circle, if they're part of that small circle, it's because of something, right? So I would just start including them in conversations, right? And
Mhm.
but including them in a way so they can get exposure, not for them to make a decision, right? Uh,
Mm.
get exposure so that person can understand why you're making decisions the way you're making them, why you're trying to do certain type of tactics that you're trying to, for example, you want a strategy to take away the tablet. Well, invite them to those conversations if you have one with a behavior analyst or one, so they can understand, oh, because they're becoming addicted. Okay, now I understand. Um,
Mm.
try to, but not for them to help you make a decision, but for them to get exposure, because when they get exposure, they're going to be a support at the end of the day. So I would do that. I would include them, those who are closest to you, that you believe that they can obviously be part of that circle. Try to include them if possible, just for them to get exposure, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that's a real reality of that circle, like you said, becoming a little bit smaller. It's probably natural, but then including those people. I love that. I got another question in my mind, but we're going to take a short break. When you have a kid who is different, all your ducks need to be in a row, especially your money. Cam Howell with Primerica knows the joys and challenges as he and his wife raise their medically fragile son, Brooks. Cam brings over 13 years of experience to help his clients be protected, have a plan for the future, reduce debt, and connect to resources. Get your financial house in order so that you can enjoy every moment with your child. Reach out today at 502 803 5075. And now, back to the show. All right, Michael. I wanted to ask you because in this world of all the things we do to take care of our kids, sometimes it can be hard to take care of ourselves. And
Mm.
so I wanted you to talk about the concept of self-care and what that was like for you and your wife, how that's been on your journey, learning to recognize your own needs. Was that hard? Was that easy? And maybe then what advice would you have for other parents around that topic of self-care?
Yeah. I would say, I think everybody has their own concept of self-care. For me specifically, self-care was more just, you know, just freeing myself from my own ego. That release for me was a lot of weight just lifted when I would say, okay, just let it be. Let's leave everything in God's hands, or let's pray as a family. Let's, just putting off a lot of my belief systems. I would say just that by itself, that lifted, the weight lifted just helped me so much. I could sleep better, for example, have those walks as a family. We walk a lot.
Mhm.
Just to, as a family, when you're walking, you're having conversations, you're seeing how the day was. So that was one thing we did, but also around that, I would say transition to understanding, hey, let's go with the flow, not let's not go against it. Um, I think also maybe identify that a lot of the denial I had was me just being selfish, you know,
Mm.
was just thinking about myself, what I thought, what my dreams were for him, what I. And I just said, you know what? I cannot be like this because I'm only thinking about myself. And that happens a lot when you're in denial and you're waiting so long to make a decision. It's because that just speaks of how selfish you are. Because if you would really think about it, the only one who's getting affected is the child.
Mm.
So that's my philosophy. Obviously, nobody needs to share it, but that's the way I see it. Because as when I just said, you know what, this is not about me anymore. I've lived. I've done everything I wanted. I was incorporated, got everything I wanted. But now it's the children, it's the family. It's not about me anymore. Everything just switched. It was like a light bulb.
Mm.
Everything switched because it wasn't about me anymore. And the more I thought about it, I was making it everything about, no, I don't want this. No, the doctor's wrong. No, everybody was wrong except me. So that mindset shift just helped me so much and my wife as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of growth. I'm going to ask you about a really tough topic to talk about. Tell us a little bit about Christian and what are the things you love most about him?
Oh, everything, and Amanda. So we have two. So Christian is going to be 7 next week. Amanda's 3. Amanda doesn't have any diagnosis, even though she's going through her own speech delay, and we
Hmm.
assume it's because he's not conversational yet. We assume that she's not being able to pick up anything, so she's having her own delay. But from Christian, he true blessing. Just celebrate the small wins. Just doing that, just being able to see his progress, everything. He again, he's very high functioning, not focused at all. But we just as the same thing you talked about. Hey, acceptance. That's acceptance. Just understanding that hey, it's a blessing. Just let's go day to day, and just accept the day how it comes, and do our best. And for him, we've been able to see him now seeing more words, being able to express himself, being able to ask questions. Um, Even in the physical part, he had elopement. Now it's a habit that's been exhausted, we would say. So just seeing everything that he's been able to do, it's amazing.
Yeah, what are some of the recent things that he's done that you get excited about?
Ah, you know, jujitsu. We got him into jujitsu a couple months ago, and that's something that's helped him a lot. First week he was in soccer, so that's why I said elopement because if you have an open field and he has elopement, believe me, it's gonna be a nightmare. So we we put him in soccer. Obviously, with that he would just run, and again it's dangerous because open field, you know. Then we got him out of that. We put him in swimming. But for swimming, he loves water, so he just, thought it was a play date and with cannonballs, all that. Uh, but jujitsu, I would say, has helped him a lot just because it's 4 walls. He's imitating other children. He's socializing. He's doing exercise at the same time, so he's burning energy. Um, and he's following instructions. So for us, it's not about just tackling somebody and wrestling down the floor, but just seeing that he's been able to get a 40-minute class without any issues. Oh my God. That's kudos for him.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds like that's been a big thing. Let me ask you this. You mentioned briefly, but tell us the name of your blog and like what kind of resources, what made you put that together? And if a person goes and visits that, what kind of resources do they find on it?
Of course. So it's www.theautismvoyage.com. It's just a blog that um it was born from a parent like obviously me that I was looking for information at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I would go through a lot of pages, and they were either or old blogs, or there were too many blogs, and I was over became overwhelmed. So I
Hmm.
wanted to have a place that it would serve like a centralized hub for any parent that just is seeking information, to have blogs that even though they're generic, it's a place that, it starts you off on some sort of level that you can at least have that information to get more knowledge. And when you go to to the doctor or whatever, at least you have more information on your side. We use several different sources to be able to create each blog, including AI. But the main goal is to serve parents seeking information and that feel comfortable that there's a place that provides this type of content. Also, in regards to resources, we have a budget sheet so families can start sitting down as a family and start being able to be accountable, ownership on what's coming in, what's coming out. That for me is important because every family should have clarity of that. Because based on that, you make the good decisions. We have also a letter of intent. That's basically a document which serves as a profile for your child. If I get into a crash and somebody needs to babysit him, I would just give him this document. It says the triggers, the allergies, the routines, everything's there just in case that babysitter is new and doesn't know anything about the child. We have an ebook for siblings who are neurotypical. They usually, obviously, there's a lot of mixed emotions there.
Hmm.
We have different, and we're coming up with more resources every other month just to provide as much value as possible. And also, we have a tab which is our services that we have conversations with parents around insurance planning.
Right. That makes total sense. So let me ask you this: when you are in this world, you have a lot of different therapies, different doctors, things like that. What advice would you give for parents on how to navigate that world and form good partnerships with all these kind of providers? What are some pitfalls? What are things you had to learn to navigate that world?
That uh, communicate everything internally as a marriage, externally as a marriage. Both parents need to be aligned.
Hmm.
Also, to seek to be curious. That sense of curiosity needs to be there because not all professionals have the experience that you may require or need. So
Hmm.
seeking maybe a second option on, just become curious in every aspect. And also to also when you seek information and you see that the professional is knowledgeable and basically fits your criteria, whatever you decide, also just try to embrace that direction or information the professional is providing. Because sometimes I do see that one of the biggest mistakes is that a lot of parents believe that they're doing good and believe that they're making good choices, but sometimes they seem like they're in cruise control, but they're going the wrong way. And
Mm.
and for me, I see it a lot when I see, for example, as an example, um, I already have a life insurance. I say, perfect. That's good because you're proactive. Now, two things. What if you don't die? What's going to happen? Second,
Hmm.
secondly, if you do have a policy, perfect. Is it considering also income for the guardian? Because if it's only considering income for your family's lifestyle, and let's say if it's in a special needs trust, but what if a guardian needs to now come in, assume responsibility for your child? If she needs to become a caregiver now and she or he needs to leave his job, he needs an income. Is that life insurance policy not only considering what your son or whoever needs, but is it also considering the guardian? So even though there's no special product, there's no secret sauce, but the strategy is around the conversation. Are you tackling all bases? And that's what I see a lot. A lot of people think or believe that they made the right decision. They have everything, but really, have you? Because
Mm.
when was the last time you reviewed it, right? When was the last time you spoke to another parent that already had? So what I see is that's the common mistake. They it's like being on cruise control, but instead of going to the port, you're going out to the sea with no gas.
I
So
love that. So let me ask you this. I tend to summarize a lot of the podcast episodes with a very oversimplified question. But if we were going to bring you in as a speaker to a group of parents and they had young kids with a variety of diagnosis, and you wanted to just kind of think about like keys to success, you're going to be raising these kids and you want to obviously everyone wants to raise their kid to be a successful adult as possible and have a happy, it's not all about the destination, the journey along the way, right? What would be your three or four things you would give advice to these parents as what are the keys to success traveling this particular path?
good question, always, man. Let's see. Trust the process, be curious, always seek clarity. Um, there's a saying I've mentioned it in other interviews that's there's a business coach that said this quote that changed my life, and it was around, hey, it's not your fault, it's your problem. But if we turn around to our community, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Mm,
So I believe that the one of the major things is for success is taking accountability and ownership of your family. Don't think that somebody's going to come and save you. There's no government that it is going to do that. There's nobody. This is your family, and this is where when I say you got to be aligned is being on the same page, not only from seeking information and being there for your son or daughter, but be there for your spouse. Get some time, talk, make sure how everybody feels in the house because that's very important and that's taking accountability. So, mention four, the fifth one, um, um, just trust God, I would say.
mm.
Just trust God. Everything, changed for us, even though we've been a believer for some time, but this situation, I would say, really made us a believer. So trust God in everything you're doing, and everything will fall in place.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your insights along the path. It's different for every person, but I'm sure a lot of our folks could relate to you. So thanks for being here today.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And folks, if you enjoyed this conversation, which I'm sure you did, we would love for you to like this episode, share it with other people, review and follow the podcast, especially the podcast Facebook page. And we're looking to have other guests like Michael, other individuals, parents, adults who grew up as the kid with the disability. What's their perspective now, as well as nonprofits or folks in education that are doing good work all around the country. So hit me up with ideas. We'd love to always get your ideas for future guests. Don't forget to visit our Facebook page, like the post with we post this episode, and follow the page. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.